Good evening. This is a meeting of the Mount Healthy Board of Education for November 16th. And excuse me, I'm going to be looking at my agenda, which is over on my other screen. All right, this is a public meeting of the Board of Education in compliance with the Ohio Department of Health stay-at-home order. Could we have a roll call, please, Ms. Brooks?
Certainly. Ms. Bryant?
Present.
Mrs. Ellis?
Present.
Mr. Glenn?
Present.
Mr. Kilgore?
Here.
Dr. Turner?
I'm here. Thank you. Board members have had the opportunity to look at the agenda for this evening's meeting. Do I have a motion to accept the agenda as written?
So move.
Second.
Okay, that was a motion by Mr. Kilgore, seconded by Mrs. Ellis. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Ms. Bryant?
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore?
Yes.
And Dr. Turner?
Yes.
Can I ask one thing? Can we put this where I can see everybody? I can only see 4 of you.
I think you have to screen. There's something up in the right-hand corner.
No.
Well, see, it was like that at first, and then all of a sudden it went back to just 4 y'all.
Right, Miss Ellis, you're only gonna see those who have their picture up. So I took mine off. Mr. Glenn, Miss Bryant, they use those little pictures. So you're only gonna see those 4.
I see all of them.
I don't see so I don't see Dr. Turner. She ain't got a picture up.
Okay, sorry. You should see her.
You could, if you put it on the grid. So.
Now, come on now. We ain't had this problem before.
All right,
Okay.
try real quick. Try clicking view in your top right and click gallery instead of speaker.
Yeah.
Say that again, Ken.
So on your top right, you should see a little icon and then the word view.
No.
What do you see in your top right?
All I see is an X, a little box, and a dash.
The waffle underneath those.
You might have to hover your cursor. If you take your cursor up there, it might show. It might be hidden unless the cursor's up there.
You have to do that.
Nope. I don't have nothing like that.
Well, let's move on. I'm not that exciting to look at anyway.
Okay.
Let's see. Board members have also had the opportunity to see the minutes from the regular meeting held on October 19th and the special meeting on October 20th and another special meeting on October 27th. Do I have a motion to accept all of those minutes as written?
So move.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Kilgore, seconded by Mrs. Ellis. Any discussion? Could I have a vote, please?
Ms. Bryant?
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore?
Yes.
Dr. Turner?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, item 5 on the agenda. Mount Healthy Teachers Association. We don't have Mrs. Wakefield with us, so I guess we don't have anything from them.
Right.
5B, communications, announcements, public input. Dr. Hawkins, do we have anything?
No, there was no public input for this meeting.
Okay. Item 5C, presentation, Treasurer's Office, summary of the 5-year forecast. Take it away, Ms. Brooks.
Okay, I am going to share my screen. I haven't done this yet. Oh, let me go back. That didn't work. I guess I have to hit share screen first and then.
Right.
Thank you. The host disabled participant.
Ms. Brooks, if you want to email it to me, I'll pull it up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Here we go. We are.
Okay. Okay. Can everybody see that? I'll make it a little bit bigger.
Yes. Please make it bigger.
Okay.
Okay, so the main thing, well, first of all, I have to get a thank you to Jen Burke for pulling all of the information together and putting it in the, what do I want to call it? I started to say machine, but that's not right. Put it into the document that we use to report back to you and to post to the State Department. And it's out there for our community to see once it's adopted. But if you'd page on down, Valerie.
What page do you?
I just want to go to just a little bit more. I want to right there. So the main point I want to show you at first is that at this time, in this exact date and time, this is the estimate that we have, and we will be ending the next 4 years, starting with this year with a positive balance, which is very good. And obviously, as Julie has pointed out to me more than once, that 5th year shows a deficit, but of course we will have to make tweaks to this throughout these years. Mm-hmm. We don't have a deficit because we can't have a deficit by law. So the biggest thing, we have very good numbers for this year. However, we don't know what's going to happen now in the end of the year. And I don't like being a crepe hanger, if you're all familiar with that word. But these are unusual times. So I think we have to remember this could change tomorrow. This could change next month. It obviously will not be exactly the way we have it here. It's going to be different, but the biggest thing that we're shooting for is to try to stay as close as possible to that bottom line, because those are healthy bottom lines at this point. And remember, we're paying out of the general fund for the Early Learning Center. So that has to be sent from the general fund into the bond retirement. That's where we make the payments from. And there are a lot of, because of the CARES Act and the ESSER money we received, that has helped us significantly in this year. The other thing I need to point out is that after this year, there are no increases in salary of any kind. There are only step increases. And then the other categories are all pretty much the same, 2 to 3% increases in most of those categories. We tried to, as you recall from a couple of years ago, we started trying to put more into technology to cover Chromebooks for all the kids, to cover new computers for the teachers, just various technological equipment and issues that we're going to be facing in the next few years. So that is a very short and sweet. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them or not. These were emailed to you today, and like I say, I think it actually looks pretty good, even though we are in deficit spending. Mm-hmm. That is not a surprise for school districts. And remember also, Valerie, would you mind edging a little bit?
Edging up?
I think so. I'm not sure.
The graph.
Yes, the graph. But then also what I wanted to talk about was for the next 4 years, for the most part, our revenue is held pretty flat, except for our real estate taxes. And there are very minor increases in the real estate taxes. But as far as the state foundation goes, any other of those categories, we've held those flat, but we've increased expenses in the expenditure area. So this is, as I say, this is the best estimate we have at this time. It is not in stone. You know that the budget is a dynamic instrument, and it's always shifting.
It always looks worse than it ends up being. So since I've been on the board, at least.
Well, and there were times before you were on the board that it was far worse than this. Carol, I think, is the only one that would remember the years we ended with $14,000 in the general fund and 1 year with $4,500 in the general fund. So
we had one that was $1,400.
that could have been. That was probably the year I had some kind of arrhythmia with my heart. I know it all happened when Dave Horine and I were working together, and we had to remind each other every day that this too shall pass. And it did. And we've come a long way since then. I have to say that the state has been very good to us. They've given us extra money because of our poverty situation, which we should have gotten all along, but I won't go into a diatribe about that. I'll just say thank you and send more.
Did you want me to go anywhere else, Becky?
No, I think that's the rest of it really gets in the weeds. And if you want to do some weed reading tonight, get in there and dig through it. But for the most part, that's everything that I tried to hit all the highlights, anything that I think you would really be interested in. Remember, salaries, that's our biggest line item. But I'll tell you, purchase services is quickly catching up to that. The 400s, we pay special education contracts out of there, all of our electric, all of our utilities, all of our technology purchases, anything that we pay to an outside vendor for services is in that 400 line. 500 strictly supplies, 600 equipment. Like I say, we have been spending more there because of our needs with Chromebooks and computers. And the 200 line is for fringe benefits. So we're still staying in pretty good shape percentage-wise when you add our fringe benefits and our salaries together. Years ago, when we were going through those rough times, at one time, our salaries and fringe benefits made up almost 80% of the total budget.
Yeah.
And Kenny, you know what that sounds like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, overload.
Yes. But we've made quite a turnaround.
Okay. So what can be done to make sure that we do not go into a deficit?
I missed that last part, that we not go into.
To make sure we don't go into the deficit?
Well, we will have to cut areas. We will have to cut back on, possibly have to remove staff. That's something we don't want to do, but cut back on our 400s, cut back on other areas. Plus, hopefully, and most likely, we will get increases in the revenue areas that I flat. So that will help offset that a great deal.
Okay.
This will change again by May. We do this again in May when we already know most of the year. But remember, last May is when we found out that we were getting a cut from the state because of the COVID. Essentially, that's why it was. We received pretty minor cut compared to other districts. I was talking to a treasurer today and they lost 3.2 million. We only lost 300,000.
Wow.
Was big for us, but we did not get hit as hard as many districts.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. Next on the agenda, item 6, the Great Oaks Board Report. Mrs. Ellis.
Okay, the meeting was on November the 11th, and we did it in a combination of in-person and online. We had a moment of silence for the veterans and to honor them, and we stood for a moment to honor them. And the Great Oaks or the Scarlet Oaks ROTC presented colors and honored those that had served our country that were in attendance. We also did the budget and finance forecast, and the treasurer, Ben Van Horn, gave us a perspective just like Becky just did, but they're in better shape than we are. Okay.
Yeah, way better.
Way better. And the second quarter adjustment to restart your future 2020, Harry stated that Great Oaks students and staff are adapting the present schedule to personalize attention for students struggling with remote academic learning. The COVID-19 pandemic is pushing our limits with schedules, quarantines, and transportation. They have an A/B schedule that has helped provide breakers to assist in controlling and limiting outbreaks. Market share highlights the percentage. 16.5% of area juniors attending Great Oaks continue to have a multi-year positive trend. 19 of our partnering districts have had an increased market share. This is especially significant due to the challenges of the pandemic. Project update, Laurel Oaks is staying on track for the new addition to be occupied mid-December. And Live Oaks is planning continues to program with a 40 million budget, of which a 35 million bond is being considered for spring 2021. And the balance made up through general funds set aside for construction. Learning Grove remodel continues with a completion date of mid to late November. Public Safety Service new training facility for live burns is under construction. The Learning Grove is they had a child care center out there, and it got to the point where they were losing money on it because it was set up for employees to use, but they weren't using it. And I think when they decided to close it, they only had one employee who had children in the thing, in the child care center. And so this group called Learning Grove was interested in taking up taking and occupying that building. And so they're remodeling it. It's a combined thing where they're paying part of it and Great Oaks is paying part of it. The ACTE elections, one of our past VPs, John Quatman, who is retired now, is running for vice president. President-elect. So they're asking us to support him. They have a diversity and unity committee report, and that report out the mission statement for the first reading. The Great Oaks Board of Directors is committed to inclusion, access, equity, and diversity for the success and growth of the Great Oaks community. That's the end of my report.
Okay, thank you. Next item is the legislative report. And while there are some other things going on, I'm just going to share about the Ed Choice and vouchers this evening. So the Ohio Senate is expected to unveil its plan to revise the Educational Choice, or Ed Choice, voucher program at a hearing tomorrow, November 17th at 2:30 p.m. This is Senate Bill 89. In the spring of 2019, a series of changes were implemented which made it much easier for public school buildings to become Ed Choice eligible in fiscal year 20 and 21. These changes included, first, a change in the performance criteria that make buildings eligible for Ed Choice, and two, removal of the requirement that students eligible for Ed Choice vouchers for a private high school must have attended public school the prior year. And that's a big deal. I'll get back to that in a second. Until fiscal year 20, the Ed Choice program required that students must first attend an public school before they were eligible to receive a voucher to attend a private school. However, in 2019, changes in the law eliminated this requirement for high school students. This meant that students who had never attended a public school would now be eligible to receive a voucher to attend a private high school, so long as their home high school is an Ed Choice eligible building. So one of the explanations I've heard of this and why this is becoming a problem is that you have families where it used to be a family would move into the district with the best schools they could possibly find so that their kids could go to the best school in the area. Families now apparently are actually moving into districts that are Ed Choice eligible. So for instance, Mount Healthy is one of those because of our poverty rates, because we don't have the greatest test scores on the state report cards. We are Ed Choice eligible schools. So now people will move into districts where their kids will be eligible to get these vouchers with no intention of sending their kids to the public school. It's just so that they can get the vouchers. So you can move into a district that has the eligibility for the vouchers and just get a voucher and send your kid to a nice private school somewhere. The state pays a certain amount of money. It's $6,000 for high school students and something less than that for below high school, I believe. But that spending was capped. It was frozen in 2019. So they've also changed the rules for what schools are eligible for Ed Choice. So a lot more schools are now Ed Choice eligible. Even some schools that have gotten A's and B's on the state report cards have been deemed voucher eligible. So that means the families who would prefer to send their kids somewhere else get money to do that. But since the state froze the money that they're giving, at this point, the number of students going to schools using vouchers are no longer getting that money from the state. They're getting everything that's excess is now coming from the districts, or will be soon. I'm not sure if that's taken effect yet or not exactly. But so that means that, I mean, of course, if it's coming out of the state, it's still taxpayer money either way. But it means that now if a family wants to move into Mount Healthy, but not send their kids to our school, would rather send their kids to, say, St. X or someplace like that, they get the vouchers, and the school district actually has to pay the money for those vouchers, but we're not getting additional funds from the state. So the number of vouchers is increasing. The amount of money we get the state for those vouchers has been frozen. So it's hitting school districts extra hard right now. So the reason that I thought this was the thing that I needed to talk about tonight is that this is one of those times, and I know that it's easy to say, call your state representative and all that kind of thing. But honestly, they're going to start talking about all this tomorrow. They're going to start hammering out the details. And if you can call your local legislator and say, this is unacceptable. Public schools should, it's basically the public schools have to give the money for people to send their kids to private or charter schools, which is just a really ridiculous system at this point. So anyone who feels enthusiastic about protecting public schools and our funds, feel free to contact your local legislator and say that this is a bad idea. This is going in the wrong direction. So that's the end of my my rant and my report. And we will move on. Item 8 on our agenda is the report of the treasurer. So back to you, Ms. Brooks.
Thank you. You received your schedule of bills for October 2020. I'd like to recommend their acceptance.
Do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Glenn. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Ms. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you. Item C, you received your October 2020 financial statement. I'd like to recommend its approval.
So moved.
Becky, you
Nope.
skipped item A.
Did we skip A? Yeah, we skipped A. That's why I was
Oh,
hesitating.
I'm sorry. A was just an informational piece about the fees. We are not going to
Okay.
be charging fees this year for the general fees, nor for the preschool because of everything that's going on, the pandemic, people out of work, so and so on and on. Now, I just wanted to inform you of that. And then we did B, and now we're on C. We just need a second now for C.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay. Any discussion on the financial statement? Could we have a vote, please?
Yes. Ms. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you. Item D, you're authorizing me to get authority from the Hamilton County Budget Commission to allow us to use the modified tax budget for the next tax year, which would be 21-22.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Kilgore, seconded by Ms. Bryant. Any discussion? Could we take a vote, please?
Ms. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
and Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Now, the next one is and authorizing me to request from the Hamilton County Auditor to receive tax advances starting with January 2021.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Kilgore, seconded by Mrs. Ellis. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Yes. Ms. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
and Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you. Item F is acceptance of the 5-year forecast.
Jennifer Silver is not available. Record when you
What?
hang up or press pound for more options.
It's
That's
not me.
It's Michael.
Oh,
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept the 5-year forecast?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Ms. Bryant. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
yes. Ms. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
yes,
and Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you. And G is approving the transfer of funds from general fund to funds listed by retirement and EMIS.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Ms. Bryant. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Yes. Ms. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
yes,
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you. Item H is to approve the new account for the school bus purchase program.
Do I have a motion?
so
So
moved,
moved.
We'll say moved by Mr. Kilgore and seconded by Ms. Bryant.
Okay,
Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
yes. Ms. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
yes,
and Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you. Item I is to approve the payments to La Rosa's, the 2 payments to La Rosa's on a now and then order.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Ms. Bryant. Any discussion?
What is this?
These 2 items were purchased with a prior approved purchase order, so I have to bring them to you for approval.
so,
The dollars were available. They just skipped over the part where they needed the purchase order to.
for what purpose? You buying pieces?
Well,
Can I
this
order
was,
some?
this was for our community event at South Elementary. They had a trunk or treat event where it also combined celebrating National Hispanic Heritage Month. And in the parking lot of the board office, they showed a movie outside for the families, and it was a community outreach event. And so they ordered in pizza for that event. They had money available. They just did not do the purchase order ahead of time. And we are stressing that they do need to do those purchase orders ahead of time so that we don't have to do the now, then and now.
Any further discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Ms. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes,
and Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you, and that's all I have for you tonight.
Okay, thank you. Item 9 is the superintendent's report. Dr. Hawkins.
Thank you. So one thing that we had mentioned doing is sharing some different information at our board meetings. So tonight, I wanted to give the board an update of our education destination plan, which is our strategic plan, and also for the community, just so that we can kind of, see where we are right now. And so I'm going to share my screen. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So our education destination is focusing on some different objectives that as a district, if we continue to work towards these objectives, then our students are going to achieve and reach their potential. The first objective is that all students are engaged in high quality and effective instruction within the framework of formative instructional practices. So that means that we are giving great instruction to our students And instead of waiting to see if they pass or fail an exam at the end of a unit, we are doing checks along the way. So we are actively monitoring progress. So if our students are not being successful, we can intervene. And I'm not going to read everything on this. We will be posting this information on our website so that the community can look at this in depth. But we checked at each of our buildings to see how they were doing for Objective 1. So at North Elementary, here are just a few things that they are doing in relation to Objective 1. I wanted to point out a TBT meeting is a teacher-based team meeting. Sometimes we use what I call EduSpeak, and we think everybody knows what TBT is. What these teams do, they actually look at how students are performing, and if students are not performing where they need to be, they develop a plan. And so this is a time where people are meeting weekly. You have your teachers, the intervention specialists, the ESL teacher, and they are looking at every single student and how are they doing on their work. We're doing grade level planning, things like that, to really try to help all of our students reach their potential. That's just a few things at North Elementary. At South Elementary, some of the same things are occurring, like the TBT meetings. They have Objective 1, 2, and 3 meetings that occur monthly. We have grades meeting together, academic coaches. We have been gathering data to monitor the literacy levels. And through that work, that was one of the reasons we received the next comprehensive literacy grant that we received just a few months ago that was over $1 million. So we also have been working, this is very important, to have the common assessments. So every class and every subject is checking through common assessments at different points of the unit to make sure students are on track. If they're ahead of schedule, they're given an extra project to do to really show their knowledge. If they're behind, then we develop an intervention. At the junior high, again, some of the things like a BLT building level team meeting and the TBT teacher-based team meetings are occurring weekly or monthly to keep that constant communication going. Grade level teams at the junior high also meet every Friday, and they talk about every student on their team. They're using data points to make sure that students are on track. iReady is used. And one thing I want to point out about iReady, it's an adaptive program. So if I'm answering questions in English and math and my level is high, the questions change to challenge me at the level that I'm at. If I'm at a lower level, the questions adapt. So it's a fluid program to help challenge students in growth, especially in the areas of English or literacy and math. And at our high school, some of the things we're also using iReady at the high school to make sure that we identify where our students are and challenge them to grow. We have meetings with student services and teaching and learning to talk about our needs. Also, you have your BLT meetings and TBT meetings, and they're using the information that we get from our RTI program to help figure out obstacles that are hindering our students from being successful. So in addition to all of that, this year we're going through an examination of our curriculum to make sure that we are hitting the levels that we need to make sure that our students are successful. And we are continually looking at our instructional practices to make sure that we are doing everything that we can. So those are just a few of the highlights under Objective 1. Objective 2 is creating a safe and supportive environment for students and teachers. And that is linked to positive behavioral intervention supports. It's often referred to as PBIS. Again, just really briefly, at North Elementary, we have morning meetings. We have really implemented Safe, Kind, and Responsible linked to PBIS. We have videos that show students the behavior that we expect, so we're modeling what we want them to do. If students are having several issues, then we're getting them intensive support, and we're partnering with Children's Home and Talbert House to help our students to be successful. If needed, we also have home visits by social workers to help students who are not being successful. At South Elementary, some of the same things. We also, though, received a grant through the K-12 Prevention Initiative for a coach at South Elementary. We have tried to incorporate behavior expectations and rewards where we're celebrating when students are showing us that they're doing what we've asked them to do. At the junior high, again, the PBIS program, and students can earn, they're called kickboard points, where if you are modeling what we want you to do, students can earn points and then purchase things in the store. Again, we're using videos to show what we expect in all areas of the school, in the hallways, in the cafeteria, wherever the student might be. At the high school, a lot of the same things are being used. One thing that I did want to note, since we've been in remote learning and we haven't had as much contact with students on a day-to-day basis, our administrators at the junior high and the high school actually went out and did surprise visits of students and just celebrated that they were on honor roll and doing what they should be doing. Some students received yard signs. So they put yard signs in at their house for a surprise to the students to just celebrate what they were doing. So that was some exciting things in that area. We've also, when we talked earlier about developing our security team district-wide, we have been bringing in that team so that they can develop positive relationships. Even in this remote environment, our security team was at our elementary schools, walking students to class, getting to know them. And right now, during the pandemic, our security team is actually delivering food to families. And that's a way that we can show our security in a way that's not punitive, that's building relationships and trying to meet the needs of our community. Objective 3 is trying to meet the evolving needs of the district with diverse populations and really targeting that from the student perspective, the staff perspective. We have started a program on equity called 1 Degree Shift with Catrice Kate. We have 2 groups working district-wide with that. Objective 3 also tries to just meet the needs of our community in a lot of different ways. We have social workers that had a coat and shoe drive for needy children in our community, and we are a poverty district. We had great success with that, and we're going to be showing some pictures of some things that have happened under Objective 3. This was our Day of Giving, which happened in April, and there was also a Day of Giving in the fall. We had great food donations, and Miss Bryant actually had a contact that gave us so many resources for our students that we were able to pass out. So once we received the food items, we tried to get them out into our community as quickly as possible. We were on the news a couple times for this, Farmers to Families, where we gave out, each of those boxes weighs 30 pounds, and we gave out boxes to our family for 4 weeks, 1,100 boxes each week. And not only did we meet the needs of our families, but several of our surrounding communities came and we gave them some boxes for food pantries in Finneytown, Lincoln Heights, North College Hill, all around our area. We tried to reach out and also help them so that they could reach the families in their communities. Here is what I mentioned earlier, where we had shoes donated. that we're passing out to families. And the Free Store Food Bank pantry, we were able to collect a lot of food throughout the school year. And even today, we have plenty of food that we're trying to distribute. Here are the codes. And Neediest Kids of All has partnered with us to purchase clothes for students. We also have partnered with the Children's Home of Cincinnati that has helped us, as well as Talbert House. So those are just a few of the things related to our strategic plan of education destination. I think that we're making great progress in all of the areas, the 3 objectives. It has been a little more challenging to meet, especially with objective 3 during this pandemic. We're looking forward to the time that we can meet together. And we are also, even though we cannot meet like we did in the past, we are doing the sharing tree. And just before this meeting, we were talking about all the families that will be helped through the sharing tree as we enter the holiday season. So I'm very proud of the work that everyone in the community, as well as our staff, has been doing in relation to our strategic plan.
Thank you. And I'm going to break in for just a second
Yeah.
and say, every November, most of the board members and a lot of our administrators go to the Capitol Conference that's held by the Ohio School Board Association. This year it was remote, so I got to watch it from my bed, and I only fell asleep once. But one of the sessions that I watched, that was a really good one, was about strategic plans, and they were talking about how schools should develop them and all that. And of course, we already have ours. It's been in place for quite a few years. So I was sitting there feeling like, well, we're already totally on top of that. And then they said that so many districts, when they get around to making one, they make it and then they put it on the shelf. Mm-hmm. And nothing ever comes of it. And then I got to feel like extra proud of us, because ours has not been just sitting on a shelf. We have been on top of this stuff. We're in year, 6 of it now, I think, or something like that. And it's been fabulous. So, our staff has been wonderful with it. Our administrators have been great. Our football team has helped hand out food. It's really exciting to see the things that are coming from this. So, okay, that's all.
Yes, great. All right, so item B is the recommendation to approve a change order. When we went through, we knew that they were going to look at our fire extinguishers and make some adjustments based on what was found through the report. So there was a little bit of a change based on when the fire marshal and everything went through, saying where we needed different things like fire extinguisher cabinets, things like that.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the change orders that are written in the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, and I'll say seconded by Mr. Glenn. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please? You're muted.
Ms. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
yes,
and Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Item C is the recommendation to enter into an independent contractors agreement with Walker Educational Solutions. Dr. Means Walker is a very highly respected educational HR person in this area. She has worked at Great Oak. She's worked at Princeton. She's worked at Mason, all around this area. She is an expert at what she does, and we would like for her to come in and work with us while Karen is out. With all of the different things that have been happening with the pandemic, we really need that person who is focused on HR and all of the changes so that our district is covered during this time.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Glenn. Any discussion?
Now, is this just a temporary position or?
It is.
Okay.
This is just to get us through the rest of the year. And then depending on what happens with Miss Green, we'll move forward after
Okay.
that.
Makes sense.
Any other discussion? And could we have a vote?
Yes. Ms. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes,
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you. Item D is recommendation to approve the following agreements with architectural services from Steed Hammond Paul SHP. And these are just things related to the Early Learning Center.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept those agreements?
So moved.
Okay, moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Kilgore. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Ms. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
yes,
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you. Item E is the recommendation to approve a resolution authorizing Mount Healthy City School District to participate in the State of Ohio School Bus Purchase Program. I'm very excited to have this on the agenda. We applied for a grant that was for a bus, and we received the grant. So we, in essence, get a free bus, a free school bus. So I'm very excited that, and that's one thing, Becky, I can't give her enough credit. She has just been fantastic, where we are looking for every grant opportunity. If it's something that we use, we want to write a grant so that that's a way to pay for things so that we can hopefully maintain a healthy bottom line. So this grant came available. Jenny, as well as Becky, worked on it, and we were granted it. And now we would like the board to accept that money and school bus.
We love free stuff.
Yes, we do.
Do I have a motion to accept a free school bus?
so moved.
Second.
Okay, I'm going to say moved by Mr. Kilgore, seconded by Mr. Glenn. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Ms. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes,
and Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you. Item F is the recommendation that Mount Healthy City School District participate in the student counseling clinic placement programs with Xavier and the College of William and Mary for the 2021 school year. And that's where we have, we're partnering with the schools so that they can get hours and we can get access to people. And the more people we have helping out, the better.
And this would be student counseling clinical placement. So what would they be doing? Well, I guess that's really for discussion, but too late. I already asked.
Oh, that's okay. It's more like when we would have different entities like Talbert House or Children's Home, they could come and do their clinic hours. And it's been a challenge during this time to find places where students could get the hours they needed to complete their programs. So we're trying to take advantage of that and show them how great Mount Healthy is.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
so moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Kilgore, seconded by Mrs. Ellis. Any discussion? Could we take a vote, please?
Yes. Ms. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes,
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Item G is the recommendation to enter into the program agreement with the University of Cincinnati to provide a 12-week program for students with disability. the Collaboration for Employment and Education Synergy Program, which pairs students 14 through 22 with peers in community locations to increase the students' social skills and employment opportunities. And the cost is listed. This is something that Mount Healthy has done in the past for our students that need this extra help with employment opportunities.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept that recommendation?
So move.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Kilgore, seconded by Mrs. Ellis. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Ms. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you. Item H is the recommendation to enter into a service agreement with HCC for EMA support and additional technology support.
Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Okay, moved by Ms. Bryant, seconded by Mr. Glenn. And I believe you sent the contracts out separately, or the
We did.
additional details out separately
Yes.
this afternoon. Any discussion? Could we take a vote, please?
Ms. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
and Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you. The next item, item H, is the consent agenda, and there's a variety of things listed there.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda as written?
So move.
Second.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Kilgore, seconded by Ms. Bryant. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Ms. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Okay, great. That's all for me.
Okay, item 10, addendum to the agenda, we don't have any. 11, special orders, we don't have any. 12, open discussion by the Board of Education. Do any board members have anything they feel like discussing?
I don't know about discussing, but I wanted to ask Dr. Hawkins about how the students are working out as far as going back to being virtual. And is all of them actually virtual?
The students, we made this shift today. Now all of our students are virtual. North Elementary was the last to shift. We looked actually at the data right before this meeting. The amount of students logging on does vary per school. The highest is actually the junior high that has the highest percentage of logging in. The students that are not logging in, we have teachers who are calling to try to find out why they are not logging in, targeting that. And you guys are going to think that I paid Miss Ellis some money to ask that question, because we just have started a new tutoring program for all of our students, and Missy Knight has put the links for that on our district website. So any student or any parent who is struggling with a concept can fill out a Google form, and we have a pool of educators in our district who are ready to set up a Zoom meeting and help students with a topic. I do want to just publicly thank Julie Wakefield and the union at Mount Healthy, because there are some schools that would discourage their teachers from volunteering in that way. But Julie said that our teachers are free to volunteer. What they're doing, so let's say I fill out the form, it goes to a point person in district. They have the list of all of our staff with what they can teach. I'm on the list for what I used to teach in the classroom, which was biology and chemistry. So if someone needs help in chemistry, he would send their email to me. I reach out to the family and say, when is good for you to have a Zoom meeting? And so we have launched that tutoring program to really target, because we are virtual, and to give our parents a free resource that they can get their children help when they're not understanding the classroom material. And then of course our teachers have open hours and they are meeting with their students, but this is just another layer to help our students. All students do have a computer, and Mr. Burdette has done a great job with the hotspots. So every family that needed internet, that didn't have internet, we are providing that hotspot so that they can connect and be actively engaged. We are working for a plan, hopefully after the holidays, that we're able to bring back our students that want to come back in our building in some model that will keep them safe and help us transition back to in-person instruction, which is what we all want. So.
Fantastic.
Good to hear. Any other discussion? All right. The date of the next Board of Education meeting, Monday, December 14th at 6 p.m. And if nobody has anything else, I am ready for motions to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Bryant.
I'm good. Second or whatever.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Kilgore. Any discussion? Before we take the vote, I'll say I hope everybody has a safe and healthy and happy Thanksgiving, hopefully socially distanced and all of that stuff. Could we have, well, all in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Yes, or whatever. Aye. It sounded like it carried, and we are finished. Thank you.